Hello and welcome to Tales from the Whisky Office with me, Gerry McLaughlin, where we'll be having some reviews of some good whiskies, having a great chat over a wee dram, basically. My guest for this episode is none other than writer, actor, comedian, good guy, co-creator of Burniston, co-creator of many things, writer of on Tune the Fat, many other amazing things. It's Robert Florence.
Keep going, Gerry. Keep going.
There is lots of things. Creator of video guiding, state
legend
of
icon, wrestler,
self-professed god of games, both board and video.
Yes, it's a pleasure to be in the Whisky Office with you.
Thanks for joining us,
Gerry. It's a real pleasure.
Thanks for joining us. Well, I'm going to get into it. Is going to be a career chat. Obviously, like we've known each other for a long time now, and there are some things I like to ask you that I've never asked you before, and I like to see the look of fear go across your face there. But first of all, I've got a wee whiskey for you. We're here in the Whisky Office. You've got your peat scents cone.
I have.
So you've got your little, your lovely smell of a peat fire burning away.
I can smell the peat, and we'll talk about that later, Gerry.
Let's talk about that later. And also, you've had your wee pack that was sent from the good guys at Solace Productions. Sent this over. Solace Sound sent over your little glass, courtesy of Glen Cairn. Did you get your wee pack? You've got your wee Tales from the Whisky Office glass.
I've got my wee Tales for the Whisky Office glass, and I've got a wee bottle of whiskey here, but there's no label on it. There's no nothing. I don't know what this is.
There's no label on it. So I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's decant it right now. Decant seems quite a grand word for just a wee tiny wee bottle, doesn't it?
Does that mean pour? Does it mean pour?
It means take the liquid and put it into a different shaped container.
Okay.
That nice.
Well, hold on. Listen to this.
Let's hear it.
Hold on a minute.
That's nice. Oh, you're not peeing, are you, Robert? Because this is a podcast.
Should I pour the whole thing in? Yeah.
Pour the whole thing in, right?
There we go.
Now the Glen Cairn glasses are perfect snifter glasses, right? So a wee tip I was given: if you're sniffing your glass, I would keep your mouth open at the same time.
Okay.
And just breathe that in. And I'll tell you that the whiskey that we're smelling right now is Scapa the Orcadian, and it's the Glanza expression. There's two expressions from Scapa. Scapa is, of course, from Orkney. One of only, you can hear us sniffing, isn't it? One of only two distilleries on the island. The other one, of course, being Highland Park. Maybe the more famous one, I would say, to be fair. But Scapa do some these two great expressions that they've got at the moment are fantastic. Now, what's your first instincts there? What are you getting from that there, Robert?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that's quite interesting that it's got two expressions, because that's my acting method as well, but two expressions.
You've got shouting and not shouting.
Yeah, loud and quiet. Right. What am I getting for it?
Yeah.
See, I'm smelling peat. This is the problem, because I'm smelling peat, but I think it might be for the peat cone.
No, you're actually right, because this expression, this particular Scapa is the other one's called Skidden, and I think this one actually is a wee bit peated, which is kind of a wee bit more unusual. You associate that with the Islay malts and stuff, but this one is a wee bit peated, so you're on the money there, Robert. Are you a big whiskey fan yourself normally?
I need to be honest, I don't drink a lot of whiskey. I don't drink a lot of whiskey. I'm maybe a cognac guy.
Right, okay.
But I do like a wee whiskey, on occasion, certainly.
Well, this is an interesting one to start with, because a lot of people do get put off by really strong peaty whiskies, and this isn't it. There is just a wee hint of it there. I'll read you out some of the, you'll love this, some of the smelling notes. So you are looking.
Can I guess something else? Can I guess something else?
Please do guess. I'll tell you what, there's four main ones on there, and I'll give you a wee point if you get some of the expressions. So you got peat, so you get a ding, 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 ding for that one.
I feel as if there's a heathery smell to it. There's a heathery kind of smell.
If you read,
no, I haven't. Honestly, haven't read it. But I'll tell you something.
Ding, 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 ding. You've got another one there. That's tremendous for a cognac lover.
Genuinely though, Gerry, I do actually I'm quite good at this. Like, see if it was like a glass of wine or something, I'm actually quite good at going, I can get this, I can get this, and get that, and it's there. I think I'm quite good at smelling.
That's really impressive if that's the case. Go on, can you get the other two? Do you want a wee clue? There is a certain sweetness in there as well.
Yeah, my guess would be a slight vanilla tone.
Well, do you know what that is? That is one of the tasting notes for the palate. But I think for the smells, it's more of kind of toffee and almonds is what they're going for. But that was really impressive, Robert. Almonds. Really impressive. So, okay, do you want to take your first wee sip of this then?
Aye.
Give it a wee go. Let that sit on the tongue. I quite liked it to go underneath the tongue as well. It's a bit more sensitive, your taste buds underneath the tongue. Yeah. And you kind of mentioned then that vanilla. Now, this is where it becomes much sweeter. behind this one. I'm getting a much more orangey kind of flavour to this one. Kind of like when the taste, the kind of longevity of it's much more of a chocolate orange. You mentioned that kind of vanilla thing there. It's much sweeter than expected from that peat.
I'll tell you what, it's nice, isn't
it? Absolutely. See, that's all you need, isn't it? Like that's it. Let's mull that one over, as they say. Let's kind of get on and have a wee kind of chat, because as I've said, we've known each other for quite a long time now. We basically kind of met almost through the it was kind of, I'm not saying pre-internet, that sounds like we're a million years old and we're only 500,000 years old, but it was you were doing online gaming things yourself at the time, and people have podcasts now, they've got YouTube now, but yourself and Ryan McLeod started up Consolvania. And can you tell us a little bit, because a lot of people know you from Burniston, obviously in Scotland, and from maybe being a writer on Tune the Fat, but actually tell us a little bit about how you got into performance in the first place, and did it start really with Consolvania or before that?
Well, Consolvania was really the only, which is just, to describe Consolvania as just a computer game show that you do with your pals, really, is what it's always been. And that was really the only performing that I did, really, because I was a writer, you know what I mean? So that was really the only performing that I did, was doing that. And that was way before, because doing Burniston and stuff and performing in Burniston, that was the first kind of TV performing I'd kind of done properly, that was, that felt like, right, I'm actually doing comedy performing here or anything like that. So I was a very, very late starter with that stuff, really.
What age were you when you recorded the pilot episode for Burniston?
Oh man, yeah, I must have been about 33, something like that, 32, 33, 32, something like that. I think.
And when you think you maybe like talking with performers and maybe had someone set that like started when they were like early teens and have been on set doing a wee bit and stuff like that, and actually have got like decades of experience just of normalizing the whole process, and then you kind of come on afresh and it's your show.
And I'd only been a writer, so it was like, and it was genuinely, I know it's like almost like terrible to say this, but it was kind of primarily, we're never going to make any money. Like just writing it, like just writing stuff, you're never going to make any money, because we were picking up, like me and Ian Connell, who they Burniston, we were picking up commissions here and there, working for Chewing the Fat and working for this show and that show. But you're always thinking to yourself, we need to come up with our own thing, which was always a dream as well, to have your own sketch show and stuff like that. And so ultimately we went, right, let's do one and say, we're going to be in this. Right. We are going to be in this. And that, that was really it. It's like, I mean, I've, yourself, Gerry, I've not been in anybody else's stuff or anything. Like, I don't go and audition for things or anything like that. I don't.
Well, let me take you back then. So how did that start? Like, so it's the partnership with Ian that kind of leads to all that. So how did your partnership with Ian, was Ian someone you knew from North Glasgow anyway? Is that how it happened? Or had you been kind of paired together? How did that relationship start? And how did it lead to writing together? What inspired you to go, let's make this a wee bit more professional? Was it just a laugh to start with?
I was at school and I had pals at school. I had a pal called Paul Doonan at school, and Paul Doonan went to a theatre company called TuneSpeak. And he says to me, there's this guy called Ian Connell at TuneSpeak, and you need to meet him, he's really funny. And you'd get on with him really well. And when I went to TuneSpeak, and I didn't really go to TuneSpeak because I was interested in drama or being an actor, but it was like there was people I knew were going, and it was more like just a thing today. And there was lassies going and stuff, you know what I mean? And I kind of thought, I'll go to this, and then I'll maybe meet this Ian Connell guy there. But at that time, Ian's a year older than me. And you know what it's like see when you're 15, 16, a year older is like 100 years older. You know what I mean? It's a lot. And so he was like kind of doing his own thing, and he was kind of in, he was just a kind of a year ahead. But eventually we did kind of get to know each other when we were writing a pantomime for the theatre company. We go together to write a panto, and because they kind of supported the theatre company, get right behind the young team that wanted to do writing as well.
So had Ian been going there for a year or so, or longer?
He'd been going there
quite embedded there. He was like comfortable, and then you kind of strut yourself in and go, I felt we should meet, mate, kind of thing.
He'd been there, but it wasn't even like that, because it wasn't even like, we kind of met in passing almost when I was there, you know what I mean? And it was more when we started doing this pantomime, and we were up the flats with this guy called Ian Boyce. It was up his flat, up the Red Road flats, and Ian would come and Paul Doonan would come, and we would all be writing together, and Ian would always bring Coca noodles with him, and he'd always be, I was like, look at this weird guy who only eats Coca noodles. And then it was after that, actually, it was like, that was how we got to know each other a wee bit, and we definitely clicked there. And then I think it was a couple of years later, actually, Ian got in touch with me, and he was like, you fancy getting together to just write some stuff, just independently? And I was like, aye, why no? And he started kind of coming up to mine, and we started writing stuff. This is when we were like 17, 18, stuff like that. And
did you write sketches from the start, or did you start with just kind of wee things? Or, I mean, what was your background in terms of writing? I mean, who taught you to write? What structure did you have, or what was your impression of writing when you guys started it? Or did you just have to find your own way?
I'll tell you this now, right? And I don't think I've ever said this in any interview, but the first thing me and Ian have written, the first thing we wrote together was, and this is just ridiculous when you think about it now, but it was like the first thing these two 17, 18-year-old guys thought, right, who were into comedy, thought of doing when they were writing their first thing was a film, like a feature film thriller about this kind of gangster guy that was called
small. Yeah.
It was called Miller. I remember it was the name of it, Miller, and it was about this like, I don't know. I've still got it somewhere. I've still got all this stuff. Like, I've got all the kind of hard copy stuff of me and Ian's career up in my kill room, as I call it. It's like this cupboard I've got up halfway up my kitchen wall. It's a weird thing.
What kind of guy was Miller, Brad? What kind of guy? Who was Miller?
He was a really dodgy guy that lived up the flats, and
of course he was.
I can't remember what the angle was. I can't remember. Anyway, regardless, we were writing together and we're enjoying it. We're kind of just enjoying clicking along and stuff. And then Ian went for an audition, because Ian was still trying to do a wee bit of acting back then. I wasn't interested in acting. Ian went for an audition at the BBC, and he didn't get the part. But after the audition, the guy who was there said, what was that thing you were performing? What were you performing? Because, you could just bring in your own thing to perform. And it was something that we'd written together. It was
no way.
It was like a wee kind of sketch thing that we'd written together. And so he says, it's a thing me and my mate wrote. And the guy was like, send in me stuff. That was how it started. There was a guy, the guy was called Neil Clark, guy at the BBC called Neil Clark, and he got us a start.
What a double-edged sword to go in for a casting and get told, listen, mate, that's not good enough. However,
aye.
But good on Ian to see the benefit of that and go, here you are.
Performance was rotten, but that material was dynamite. So that was it. And then we went in and started sending stuff, and then we had our first commission. We had a commission for a BBC Scotland radio pilot when we were like 19. I think I was 19, he was 20, and we got our first commission. I knew it's fucking almost 25 years later.
And was that first commission, was that writing for Tune the Fat at the time?
No. Our first commission was a sitcom pilot thing called Dodgy Geezers, it was called, right? Which was it was this weird idea we had about like just all these kind of weird characters that came together in this group to kind of discuss their lives or something, right? It was like probably not very good, right? I can't really remember. Yeah. Off the back of that, we get work writing on a BBC Scotland radio show called Velvet Cabaret. And then for Velvet Cabaret, then we were on Tune the Fat. And it kind of went on for there.
And did that feel like a big breakthrough kind of moment? Because obviously Tune the Fat was such a big part of Scottish culture. It kind of entered into all those kind of catchphrases and things like that. And to be part of that kind of scene, did that feel like that was the first year moving in the really in the right direction and maybe even give you the taster? Was it at that point you went, we need to be in this stuff if we're really going to kind of push on here?
Well, I remember being in Balbier's Balti Bar. I think it was called Indian Restaurant in the Toon, which was across the road for the Odeon. And I remember being in there one night and hearing another table. I was just having my dinner and I was going, just having a nice night out. And then I heard somebody at another table say a line. And I was like, I've written that. I wrote that line. You know what I mean? Amazing. And that was kind of the first time where I thought, there's something happening here. Obviously, getting your first credit on telly and all that is brilliant. And Tune the Fat was great as well. It was like you were sending stuff in and, if anything, Ford and Greg were making it funnier, the stuff you sent in, which is like the opposite of what normally happens. So,
do you know what's really funny? See, from like working with you for years and like reading all the sketches and all the sketches that don't make it onto Burniston, I think now when I look at Tune the Fat, I could tell what sketches you and Ian have written fairly easily. I think I could kind of guess ones. You don't normally say which ones you've written, do you, on Tuesday? It doesn't work like that, does it? You kind of get the credit, but I would put money on The Big Man being something that you and Ian have written, but maybe even more you, if I'm honest.
I think we've definitely got a very particular style, I think, of comedy, I think.
Yeah.
I think we've got a particular style. But anyway, in terms of meeting you, Gerry, I kind of came in for the other direction, because while I was writing stuff and I was a jobbing gag writer, I would call myself. I was like working with Ian and getting sketch show commissions and stuff like that. And I was doing some writing for stand-ups, and I was doing just bits and pieces everywhere. I thought to myself, oh, man, I love computer games. I wish I'm going to do a show about computer games. And Ryan McLeod, who was my mate at the time and still is my mate, who I'd met at school as well, met him before. Did I meet him before I met Ian? I think I met him before I met Ian, maybe, or run about the same time, actually, probably run about the same time. But I was just a run at Ryan's all the time when I was a wee guy. I was like always run at Ryan's, and we were always playing computer games and watching terrible films and eating loads of curries. And I was like, man, it would be good to channel this, to try and channel these kind of nights we spend together with mates playing computer games into something that was a show. So we came up with this thing, Consulvania, which we were just, and we were talking pre-internet here, so we made it and burned it onto discs, onto CDs, and we're sending it to people through the post and stuff, just people in forums that wanted to watch it and stuff. It was a really, really odd thing.
What an amazing solution to it, though. I mean, like, people, you know what it's like when things arrive. Everyone now is so used to like Amazon things arrive in the post, and you've had your wee Glencairn gift bag as well from Solid Sounds and all this. When it arrives, everything's great. And you did that with a show that arrived like in the post. People must have been absolutely delighted with that at the time. And then now that'll never happen again. But
it's a weird thing
of its moment.
Because obviously Consulvania is still going, and obviously you're have been a part of Consulvania recently until we couldn't afford you anymore. Big bucks, Jerry McLaughlin. But I've often thought to myself, man, how good would it be to send episodes of Consulvania back out to people by post again? You know what I mean? I kind of feel like almost things are heading a wee bit back in that direction, a wee bit more. Like, certainly for me, one thing I've noticed, it's nice having things coming through the post, and it's nice. Like, I love computer games, but I won't download them. I'll buy physical. I like to have the physical thing in my hand, and I'm kind of wondering, I've been starting to wonder recently, wonder if like Consulvania would be good as a physical thing again, you know what I mean? Something physical that people could. Anyway, we did Consulvania. The BBC, because they were working with me at the time, they were like, what is this thing you're doing? You know what I mean? What is this? You're doing a show. And then they said, do you want to kind of pitch to try and get that on telly? We pitched to try and get Consulvania on TV, and then it kind of adapted into a thing called Video Guiding. Yeah, we started doing that, which was crazy, which is a show that would never get made these days, because genuinely the commissioner at the time, a guy called Ewan Angus, who like a great champion of comedy in Scotland, he says to us, we get carte blanche, really, just do what we want, just make a show about video games, and he doesn't want to understand a word there. There was no notes.
I don't think he would have understood any of it. It was chaos, wasn't it?
But he was just like, just go and make it. Which would never happen these days. It would never happen where somebody would say, no notes, just make the show that you think is right, and it just wouldn't happen.
But it also found a kind of key audience. So didn't it? I mean, the things that you're talking about there are talking about finding like that key audience and just giving them everything they want. It might not be for everyone, but the people who do love this thing are in love with it. And maybe, do you feel that there's maybe not enough of that now? See, when you look at like more modern things you've worked on, that there's been loads of sitcoms you and Ian have put together, and then now the Scots is running now as well, but you've had to really work at it to get to that point. You've had to really pitch and really graft to get shows through, to get to a point where you've got something with the Scots and you've got that backing and maybe given that voice to it. Do you feel like there's maybe things have got to be a little bit too broad, and actually things can be really successful if they can just find their audience?
Maybe the trouble is it's like what I view as a successful show and what a broadcaster views as a successful show are completely different things. For me, a successful show is something. I mean, here's the thing about Burniston. Burniston always got good viewing figures, right? It always get good, healthy viewing figures, but it didn't get like phenomenal viewing figures like a Tune the Fat did, or a Still Game did, or anything like that. If anything, Burniston has because of the internet and because of Facebook and stuff like that, I think it's given people more of an impression that it was a bigger success than it actually was. You know what I mean?
It was also a different time for TV as always. I mean, I remember being at university when Tune the Fat was still on, and my pal at uni is an English guy from Wolverhampton, and I introduced him to it, and he just fell completely in love with Tune the Fat and bought the box sets. I mean, I bet you're looking at it now going, I wish people bought box sets still. Do you know what I mean? Because I remember seeing that in the house. I remember talking to Johnny Watson about Only Excuse, and people would buy the VHS and have a party, and everyone would come round and watch it. I mean, what a totally different way to consume comedy. And, you know, it's great now that surely everyone can get a little piece of it and what have you. But what I think is lost there as well, with that sense of community and that sense of timing and sharing that moment all together. And platforms are trying to experiment with that, aren't they? But I don't know if you'll ever get that kind of moment back.
No, there needs to be. It's just going to take a lot more bravery and a lot more, a kind of attitude of experimentation and, you know, not being risk averse. Yeah. I think that's. But then, you know, it's very easy. It's so easy for me to say as a writer sitting in my house, like they should just give £500,000 to somebody and just like no worry about it. And you know what I mean? It's like
things have to work or not at all, don't they?
There's a lot, and particularly now the BBC is under more pressure than ever to deliver and stuff like that. So I get it. You know what I mean? I get why it's tough, and I get why you need to keep pitching. And you know, certainly, I think as well these days, you know, being I am the kind of guy. This is the tough thing when you're pitching TV these days. I'm the kind of guy you probably shouldn't be giving telly shows to. Like, I'm a white, straight guy in his 40s, right, who has already done a fair amount of stuff and all that. And I can kind of get why it's like, you know, give new people a chance, give a more diverse audience a chance. That is definitely the kind of the fair thing.
This is a podcast with two white, straight,
I know,
middle-aged guys talking, which is just what the world needs right now. But luckily there's some whiskey in the middle here, and you enjoying your whiskey there? How's that scappa going down? Have you had a wee
I'm loving
extra taste there?
I've not had much teat, by the way, I need to be honest, so I'm like I'm absolutely hammered. But how I met you, Gerry, you were on Channel M, right?
Yeah.
And we were doing,
which was our just for the listener, that was a restricted service license, a local TV station in Manchester. And I think I was presenting most things on it.
Well, let's not be modest here. Gerry was Channel M. You would turn on Channel M, which was a Manchester TV channel, and you would turn it on, and if it was like 11 o'clock at night, Gerry would be presenting a music show. If he turned it on at 7 o'clock at night, Gerry was presenting a food show.
That's true.
And you had a video game show. And me and Ryan McLeod at the time when we were doing video guiding, we still have this problem. We think we're the best at doing video game shows. Right? we think our stuff's brilliant, and we're less like that now. But definitely back then we kind of big headed, and we were like we're the best at doing these shows. Our show's the best. But I remember when we saw your show, and there we were like, this guy's really good. This is actually, and we hated every video game thing we saw. But when we saw your show on Channel M, we were like, this guy's actually good at this. And not only that, he's also Scottish. Well, he's also kind of Scottish. Scottish. Right? He's also Scottish. So we were like, let's get him up and get him to do video guiding with us. Because the other thing was, we couldn't believe, here's this guy who's on Channel M in Manchester, and Scottish audiences maybe haven't seen this guy. And he's like really good. You know what I mean? He would be, and that's very kind of you to say. So it's not why I brought you on the podcast to just wax my ego here. It's nice to hear, because you're definitely a massive part of the reasons why I came back up to Scotland. I'd left obviously as a young kid and been back up and down, but it was just good timing when things kind of were ending there. And I remember you sort of saying, "Come on up and join the comedy revolution." I think you just had the first series of Burniston, and then we're looking at kind of put me in that at that time, and that's just been great. And for me, I was a bit similar to yourself, Robert. I started acting. Really, I was like 25 before I did literally my first ever thing. I was never even in a play at school. We just didn't have any drama wherever I moved, and then doing it. So I know what you're saying about going on set, and you're a bit older and almost having to pretending that you're fine with this. This is normal. No problem. What are you doing? And just that kind of nervous energy, and you need to normalize everything in life to be good at it. But here's a question for you, Rob, before you go. So you've written a lot of sitcoms. Legit Empty, Scots, for the State. If you were to write, though, I know State's not a sitcom, but if you were to, what sitcom do you wish you wrote? What do you think is like a kind of perfect
sitcom. There's one that you watch and just go, I tell you what, man. I wish
Does it
that
need to
was
be?
me.
Does it need to be a British one or?
No, whatever you want.
Oh,
It's a tricky one.
it is a tricky one. I would probably say Cheers. Cheers is the perfect sitcom, I think.
No way. In what way? Why is it the perfect sitcom?
I think you've got a massive amount of characters. Every one of them is funny. There's no straight man on Cheers. Everybody's funny. Everybody's funny in their own way. It's super likable. Anybody can watch it. Anybody can get it. Kids can watch it and laugh at it. And it's warm and it's cozy and it has a lot of heart and it has great characters, strong characters. Characters so strong that Fraser goes off and ends up with his own hit sitcom, which happens very rarely, that there's a hit sitcom where a character gets a spin-off and it's a massive hit.
They try a lot, but it doesn't happen very often, does it?
So, Cheers is the one. Cheers is the one I always say to people. People are like, "Have you any advice about like comedy writing or anything like that?" I'm always like, "Watch Cheers." Watch Cheers.
It's interesting. I remember like my granny. I was about to say she's still alive. I was going to say it like in past tense there. I remember her because I was on TV. Sometimes my granny thinks that I run TV and gives me suggestions for all of television. Things like you should get in that Corey and what have you. I was like, 100%. I'll work on that right now. But she was once saying to me, she says, Jared, because she gives me my full name. She was Jared. There's an awful lot of like horrible things on the telly. Like it's swearing. And I mean, even kissing, she's not really comfortable with that, right? And she was saying, Joe, why don't you just go make something nice? Just make something nice. And I was laughing. I was telling my mum this, like, what would Gran want? She doesn't want it. No couples kissing or anything like that. So it'd have no peril, no drama. It just have to be two wee women going into a wee cake shop and just having a wee blether. And my mum was like, that sounds lovely.
That sounds good.
Yeah, you're like, that maybe that is the market.
Well, this is the thing. I think
acceptable for more people.
I like a kind of dark, weird, edgy sitcom as much as the next guy. But, I remember, without getting too dark or heavy here, I remember when me and my wife lost a baby, we watched Seinfeld. Like all the way through. Now, Seinfeld has its edge and but it still has a kind of, see, sitcoms like Seinfeld, they have because they're network TV, they have a mainstreamy kind of warmth to them, even when they have a kind of edge to them where it's kind of like dropping in with Friends. Yeah. And I think, when I was younger, maybe the sitcoms that were like kind of edgier and about horrible people appealed to me a wee bit more. But recently, like The American Office, I could watch forever. And which is a sitcom, it did an interesting thing because it took the British model, and had characters that were quite repulsive and then progressively over the seasons softened them so that you loved all the characters. It was an incredible thing they did. I mean, that's another great sitcom I would love to have written. Anything that would have made me money, Gerry, basically.
Yeah, anything massive.
Anything
Joe,
huge.
I was walking through, me and Scarlett, me and the missus we're going through Marks and Spencer's. We were returning some stuff last week and we're going through the bra section, and I can't go through any underwear department without thinking of that Father Ted episode where all the priests get caught in there and it's like Nam and they try and get out. I just thought, imagine the amount of fun they must have had writing that episode, like with all the Nam and guys just getting twanged in the eye. There's so much fun to be had.
Great sitcom. Father Ted is just a great sitcom. In fact, I need to be honest, like if we're talking about British sitcom that I wish I'd written, it's Blackadder, definitely.
Blackadder.
Blackadder.
Second series
is my favorite.
And last.
Second. Well, I do like the third one as well, but I'm a big Blackadder fan, so I think if it was a British series, it would be that. I think
it's great though. That kind of what's amazing about it is the escapism that you give people, and then when you see that something's genuinely timeless, like you must still have people coming up to you talking to you about certain Burniston sketches and stuff like that. A friend of mine was at a wedding in Spain where in Spanish two guys acted out the Lift 11 sketch. Now that's tremendous. So when you hear stuff like that going on, do you ever think you're sitting somewhere and your hair's just going end and you're like, someone's doing the Lift sketch somewhere?
I know it's good. I mean, obviously that's what you're wanting when you're doing sketch stuff, is you're wanting stuff to, you're wanting people to really engage with it on that level, and remember it and rewatch it. And so that's always good. And the challenge is though, when when you move on to something like that, like the Scots, the new sitcom we've got, it's persuading people to. The natural reaction for people is to kind of go, just do Burniston again. You know what I mean?
Well, it was my reaction, but that's just because then I would have been in it. But that was only. Was only
Which is not to say we won't do Burniston again as well. You know what I mean? It's like, Burniston. I would imagine isn't completely finished. You know what I mean? I think
you don't have to say that because this is my podcast, Robert. It's fine.
No, but I just don't think.
Jeez, man.
I think sitcoms are. I think sketch shows are never really ever completely done until until the people who have done it are completely loaded and don't need to do it anymore. We're not there yet.
Aye.
So
no, that's quite a long time to go. Plenty of time to go.
I mean, I would love to do. I would love to do a big live Burniston show, a big live farewell show is something I would really like to try and make happen. Because I think there's a lot of people out there who have never been able to see Burniston live. Loads of people out there who like it and have never been able to kind of have one last big send off for it. So I would love to do something like that. But yeah, I mean, you're just always trying. You know what it's like, Gerry? You're always just trying to graft and get the next wee gig or get the next. That's the job. That's a job,
it.
And it's always been a job.
I mean, you keep yourself spread across a number of fields as well. Like you mentioned wrestling at the top there. I mean, I'd kind of forgotten that in my, and I was at that Kelvin Brawl night where yourself and Greg Hempel would organise that event at a beautiful, famous venue. And what a fantastic night that was as well. A big surprise of Frankie Boyle appearing at the end as well. Yep. I think I was with one of my cousin and his pal, and they had to go and get the bus at the end. So the night had really overran, hadn't it? I don't know if you remember that. I don't know if you could remember it, with the pain of your ribs being crushed in.
It had overrun by about an hour, I think, guy.
Oh, and they were like, did anything happen? I went, aye. there was a riot at the end, and these guys took their masks off, and it was Frankie Boyle, and he just did a massive speech, a political speech at the end, which as anyone who knows Frankie Boyle will have known what that was about and just how concise and precise it was, and absolutely cutting with almost zero comedy in it whatsoever.
It was outrageous.
Like, this is absolutely insane.
But that was an amazing night. That was an amazing night. That's definitely a high point in my career. Was doing that night. Kelvin Hall and Jim Watt being there, where he won the title back in the day, and doing his bit in the ring, and he was like all teary-eyed backstage and all that. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful night. It was amazing.
It's amazing. There's something to be said, isn't there, about the kind of recorded performances and the fact that they can be captured forever. And, that there's a whole new era of people that will be watching Burniston clips on YouTube, and it's shareable, it's spreadable, and it's timeless. But at the same time, there's nothing beats that moment that you have and the memory of that moment when you do that kind of a live performance like that. And, it's like you said, I guess Burniston's never been tested on that skill, but you have been doing it.
Well, you'll remember Gerry doing Burniston at the Fringe. Yes. And I know we're not supposed to be talking about you, right? But you'll remember doing that, and that was fun, right? Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It's the only time I've done a show that is completely sold out before arriving. What an amazing level of freedom and relaxation. It was great. There'll be people right now panicking about their Fringe shows, Yeah, it was great to be at the Fringe, and everybody's sweating about their ticket sales and stuff, and we were like sold out every night, man. And remember the night we had to go to the big theatre to do a performance, and then had to rush back to do our show. Remember? Yeah, of course. It felt like that. What was it? What was the theatre we had to go to? It was the big. What's the big theatre called? Oh, do you know, that's terrible. I've just forgotten it. It holds 1,000 people. You're right. I've just forgotten the big fancy one in the tune anyway. But it was like a charity gig or something, and we did the first. We had a sketch in the opening of that, and the reason why we were doing it at the start of that was because we had to immediately leave, run, jump in a taxi, get to our venue, get up on the stage for our show. And I remember when I was doing that, I was like, this is amazing, man. I know. Let's do this every day. To be honest with you, see, at the start of rehearsals for that, I was starting to panic because I was coming into rehearsals, and I've done a few. I'm not saying I've done any West End shows or anything like that, but I've done a few big productions, and we're going to do Burniston live, and the Fringe it's basically sold out. And I was like, right, cool. What's the set? What are we thinking about for the set? And you were like, you and Ian were just like sat in the chairs, went, dunno. All right. What are you working on? What me and Robert are going to do a bit working on it tonight. This was day one of rehearsals of 7 days of rehearsals. And we were just like, and in the end, the set was 2 chairs. And I think 2 chairs on a table or something. I think it was like 2 chairs on a table. I was like, this is not going to wash. And it did, because obviously people suspended belief, and it allowed for much more freedom for people to see the sketch they wanted to see. And what a response it was from the crowd. I'm completely convinced that riot. See, with sketch comedy and stuff like that, you don't need a big elaborate set, and you don't need all you need is like the cast and a couple of chairs, and because not genuinely, because I think I've said to you before, Gerry, I would love to do a sketch show where it's like we have no set, no props or anything. It's just
in the material.
Aye, it's just yep. I would love to do that because I
would love to see Bunderston at the Hydro, and all the Still Game fans that have come to see both turned up expecting an extravaganza, and they've just got you and Ian in ill-fitting wigs and moustaches that are falling off.
Mate, they would love it.
They would love it. It'd be brilliant. Right, Robert, thanks very much. You know, I've covered almost a fifth of all the stuff I was wanting to talk to you about. But first of all, how you liking your whiskey now? Is it kind of had a chance to kind of settle?
I'm loving it, really, actually. I'm really loving it.
The Scapa Orcadian, which is it's the Glancer expression. So a nice one. I think that's a really nice introductory one. You know, for people that aren't like massive whiskey fans, that would like a wee dram, don't want anything too harsh. I think that's a beautiful wee dram. I really do.
No, it's no very harsh, is it? It's quite. It's quite smooth.
It's quite smooth.
It's quite smooth. This has been a pleasure, Gerry. I would be happy to come back on any time.
I think I might have to get you back on in later times. We need to cover some more stuff, but that can be done later. Robert, thank you very much. And thank you for listening as well. Future episodes will be on Acast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Big thanks to Matt Ramsey for editing and mixing. This podcast is produced by Solace Sounds. We'll see you next time for more tales from the Whisky Office. Slange. And thank you, Robert. Slange.
Slange.